Hey everyone, Michelle Seidling here at Food Experience Unplugged. Today we'll explore gratitude, what it is, how it affects your life decisions and goals, and why it's one of the keys to success in developing healthy habits. Here to help us do that is Jennifer Garman, the founder and CEO of gratitudemission.org, where she helps people cultivate gratitude for health and happiness. Jennifer is also a certified life coach and author of the book Flourish, 7 Ways That Gratitude Can Transform Your Life. Jennifer Garman, welcome to Food Experience Unplugged.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, we are grateful for our discussion today on gratitude, and you are the main gratitude go-to person of all things gratitude. So we're sure happy to have you.
I do love my gratitude. Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. Well, to start out with, could you give us an introduction of yourself and your experiences? What brought you to this point and why gratitude mission? Why gratitude?
Sure, absolutely. I'll kind of take everyone back about 12, 15 years now. I was sick for the better part of a decade, and it was a mystery illness. I never really got a complete idea or resolution as to what it was. All I know is that like overnight, I was not okay. And I was good one day. I was juggling a lot. I was doing a lot of stuff. And then I just couldn't sleep. And it was odd because even at the most stressful times in my life, crazy tests and that in college and all-nighters, and I was never not able to sleep. Newborn twins, and I would be able to fall right back asleep every feeding. And it was just bizarre to me that for no reason, there was nothing particular going on. Just one night I had complete insomnia where I laid there the entire night, and that had never happened before. And
Wow.
the next night, same thing. And after the second night, I'm like, okay, what's going on? This is not good. And of course, I started Googling. And stress came up and other things that just didn't pertain to my life at the time. So I just kind of, brushed it off and said, oh, it just had to be a fluke. But then the third night, same thing. I couldn't sleep. And at that point, I scheduled an emergency appointment with my doctor and went in just in tears because after 3 nights of being sleep deprived, I couldn't do much other than be emotional. Um,
I
and they
bet.
wanted to put me on antidepressants and medication. And I said no to the antidepressants, but I reluctantly said yes to the sleep medications. And I did get a little bit of sleep after taking them for about 4 or 5 nights that I finally got like a couple hours of sleep. And it just kind of declined from there. I got all kinds of allergies and food sensitivities and things that I'd never had before in my life. It was just bizarre, but it was definitely a downward spiral that I was on. And I started seeing specialists. I started seeing alternative medicine doctors. At one point, I was eating nothing more than meat and vegetables and non starch vegetables at that. It was very, very brutal. And
Wow.
I never really got a diagnosis that fit or a symptom relief. I would go down these protocols and they may help, 20, maybe 25%. But it would never really get like a click, like, oh yeah, this is what I have because this is really clicking with me. I'm getting better. I'm feeling better. And it about the 7 year mark, I just, was just crying out in prayer. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is just what I need to accept and move forward and stop going down all these rabbit holes, chasing this mystery diagnosis that I'll never find. So at that point, I decided to get my life coaching certification. And that's when the notion of gratitude came up over and over again. It would talk about the happiest people are those that incorporate gratitude in their lives. And after reading it for the sixth or seventh time, I'm like, okay, I got it. I've got to put gratitude in my life. I need to be happier and just, be happier that this is my path and I've got to accept this mystery illness that I'm dealing with. So I was also studying neuroplasticity at the time. And so I married the two and I incorporated the neuroplasticity techniques with the pillar of gratitude. And I practiced it for not even a week. And my symptoms started to get better. And I was at this point, I'm like, well, maybe I'm just happier. That's what it is. But I kept practicing it. And within a month, all of my symptoms had disappeared. And at that point, I couldn't ignore it. I knew that there was something to what I was doing and me feeling so much better. And so I started researching it even more, and the power of our thoughts and our mindset, just it floored me. I dove really deep into um, all this data and quantum physics, and all these things that were just like just mind blowing to me. And just that what I kept seeing time and time again, that the science proved that our thoughts are incredibly powerful, especially high frequency positive thoughts. And that's what I was doing. I realized in practicing gratitude is one of the highest frequency emotions that you can get yourself in. And I was doing that, and I was in essence healing my physical body by putting myself in this state. So it was at that time I decided that I needed to share this with everybody I could, and the power of something like gratitude. So I created a product called the Growing Gratitude Tree, and I took that product to market in 2018. And that was to teach kids gratitude and to incorporate it in families to bond them together outside of a device. And that went incredibly well. And then in 2019, I got the opportunity to write a book about my story and about gratitude and all the science that I gathered together. And that just released in April.
I love that transformation. Now, help me understand now, back at the beginning when you were first having the insomnia, things like that, just kind of looking back, what was your gratitude level, I guess, back then versus now? Did you notice, thinking back and what you know now, was there any kind of difference back then that may have been a key to solving the mystery?
Well, I think I can honestly say my gratitude level was pretty non-existent back when I was diagnosed. I was just thinking that, I was super mom, I was getting everything done. I was, doing it all and then some. And I don't really think I was counting my blessings at all, if I can recall correctly. I think I was just getting through the day and patting myself on the back, saying, I'm a super mom. So gratitude did not really fit into my life back then. And I've done a complete 180 on that and realized that, it needs to fit into my life. And when it did, it made the biggest difference.
Mm. Now, in addition to, okay, having that gratitude, cultivating that gratitude, has that led you to do other things, from, biologically, nutritionally, different habits that you feel that have really kind of sparked you to be healthier and to be better?
Yes, well, that's interesting you say that, because I didn't have the time or the energy to really have a constant workout routine back before all this happened. And since then, I now run religiously 2.5 hours every week and do weight training a couple times a week. And it's kind of just fit into my schedule to do that. But I noticed that coupled with a lot of healthy nutrition techniques that I brought into my life, my energy is through the roof. I don't use an alarm clock. I just naturally wake sometime between 5:30 and 6:30 every morning, and maybe once a week, my body lets me sleep until 7, and I just let it go. And I just wake up when I'm ready to get up, and then I know when I'm ready for bed at night. I don't have any caffeine, zero. I only drink water. And occasionally a glass of wine, maybe once or twice a month. But other than that, but yeah, my brain fog. I used to have horrible brain fog when all these symptoms came on, to the point where I could not remember people's names that I would talk to every day. It would just things would slip, and I'd be like, "Am I getting dementia?" Because my brain just wasn't working. And that is completely cleared up. It's just I can access memories now that before I didn't even realize that I had these early childhood memories that I didn't even realize were in my mindset, and I can now access them. So definitely a large portion of my brain has cleared up from the fog for sure.
That is wonderful and amazing. So let's backtrack for just a minute. Now, help us understand, just to clarify, what is gratitude and why is it so important? Why did it really drive you to want to not only investigate it for your own health, but to really be on a mission to help others to do so?
Well, that's a great question. And it kind of stems to the fact that gratitude is a very high frequency emotion. It's actually one of the highest frequencies. From what I understand, it might even be the highest. I haven't got a definitive answer on that yet, and I don't know that they can test that, so to speak, definitively. But from what I understand, it's one of the highest frequencies that we can put ourselves in emotionally. And when we are emotionally living at this high frequency, you've heard of like attracts like. We're getting the same energy back that we're emitting. So same can be said with a negative state like depression or anxiety. If we're emitting those frequencies, which are very low, we're going to attract those same frequencies. You can everybody can probably think back to a time when they were just down and depressed, and it's amazing how many friends that you attract that are in the same state, down and depressed, and everybody commiserates together. Gratitude's the same thing. Like, if you're living in this emotion of a higher frequency, you attract people that are also vibrating, so to speak, at that higher frequency. But the biggest thing that gratitude does, it's literally a mindset shift. So it's a shift from what you don't have to what you do have. And just in that lens transition of viewing things through the lens of I have so much and I'm so grateful for what I have, it really keeps that negative mindset out and those negative things out that tend to creep in so easily when we're watching the news or on social media. These things bring us down so quickly into this downward spiral. But if we practice the gratitude muscle, I call it, and build that up and practice it daily, we can easily shift back into the mindset of, wait, hold on, I'm not going to get wrapped up in this because I'm going to focus on what I do have.
Interesting. So now, from a biological standpoint, you've studied the neuroplasticity and all of that. So, does gratitude or having gratitude actually change your brain in some way, or what exactly happens that can refocus your mindset?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's the gratitude, so to speak, but it's the higher frequency emotions tied with um, feeling them and remembering those times together, that really, and then basically casting that into the future, so to speak. So when I was ill and I was practicing these techniques, I was thinking of the time where I was so happy. All my kids, we were all together as a family. We're floating down a lazy river on a raft, just laughing and giggling and getting drenched. And I just remember that emotion and that feeling, and I felt it with all my senses. And then I took that feeling of just being so grateful for that time, and I projected that into the future of me feeling like that again. And I didn't know how I was going to get there, but I was seeing myself there in the future. And that's really when the rewiring started. And it was so quickly that I started feeling better that I knew that there was something to it. And that's the rewiring, so to speak, of the brain. The other part that goes with it too, with the neuroplasticity, is after you do an exercise like that, it's very good to practice something or learn something new. And I took up juggling at the time. And I was never able to juggle before, but I would sit there and I would practice it, and I would remember that feeling, and I would, keep putting it into the future. And it wasn't long before my health returned, just like I had envisioned, and that the happiness was all there with it, just like that feeling was.
Wow, that is amazing how you can really channel that energy, channel those feelings to to transform your life essentially. So, how does that gratitude affect your life decisions and what, people are always, setting goals they want to do, health wise, career wise, other aspects. How does having gratitude facilitate those things?
It's interesting because when I feel and am enveloped in gratitude each day, I can kind of go through my day as, it's positive and I'm thankful without knowing what's going to happen. And sometimes I'll just concentrate on, well, I want to make a really good connection today. I don't know how that's going to happen, but that's what I'm going to focus on, making a great connection today. And lo and behold, it happens more times than not. When I concentrate on with that feeling of gratitude and being thankful for that, even though it hasn't happened yet, as part of my routine, it's really incredible how many things come from doing things like that.
Mm. So you kind of visualize your success or visualize you want to happen with regard to that.
Correct. Or visualize something that I'm working on, and it going, down further down the path, advancing, so to speak. Yes, and pulling that in with gratitude and being thankful for things progressing down that path when maybe I've hit a roadblock and don't know what to do. Sometimes I do it at night, right before bed. So the best two times to practice gratitude that I found are right when you get up in the morning and right before bed. Those are the states that you're in between conscious and unconscious. And it's really easy for your brain to access the areas that need to be changed when you focus on something like gratitude those two times of the day. So
Mm.
a lot of times when I've hit a roadblock, I focus on at nighttime what it is that I've come up against, and I just don't know what's going to happen with it, but I'm just grateful that it's going to progress somehow past that obstacle.
Okay. So, and you find, when you're planning it out, essentially, almost planning your strategy of what you want to happen.
Yeah, without knowing all the pieces. So being grateful for how it's going to play out without knowing how it's going to play out, if that makes sense. So you're grateful for an unknown. So you see where you want to be. You know where you are. You know that there's an obstacle in the way. But if you have gratitude for being in the place you want to be, somehow getting around the obstacle, it's amazing how things have transpired when I am grateful for that future event happening somehow. And it's amazing how things materialize and move forward to that goal.
Interesting. I love that focus and really channeling that energy. And perhaps, at night mentally you have something to think about overnight. And maybe that has something to do with it. So what success stories of maybe people you've coached or people you've worked with, of course, in addition to your own success story of gratitude, how has that helped people to develop healthy habits?
Well, that's a good question. I think that our mental health is something that we don't really talk about unless it's in a place of duress. And I think that we need to talk about it more in terms of we have a routine for our physical health, and we have a routine for our eating, and we know that we need to keep those in check. But all too often we forget about keeping our mental health healthy, our mind healthy. And I think that meditations are a great way to do this. And you bring in gratitude, you bring in happiness and joy. I also love nature walks. Just being out in nature, is almost impossible to not be in awe and be grateful for something around you in nature. And it's one of the easiest ways. If people don't know where to start, I say go and take a walk. And even a 10-minute walk in the woods or on a pathway or somewhere near nature, where you can just take in what's around you and the ecosystem and all the different things and the complexities happening, and be grateful for that's all happening around you, and you get to be witness to it. And it's really I call it the take in the beauty exercise, and you just take everything in and you feel everything and just be grateful for that feeling, and that you're part of that.
Excellent. I love that. So has there been any person or group that you've worked with that really stood out in terms of really kind of grasping on this concept of gratitude and really running with it for their own goals, their own ambitions?
Yes, there's been several. One in particular that I can think of was just going back into the workforce and did not have a job and didn't know where they were going to start. Thought that they were, it had taken 10 years off and just didn't know what was going to happen. And we kind of took a step back and we said, okay, what are you really good at? What are your talents? What would you like to do? And let's work on having gratitude for the talents that you have and the life experience that you have and the job that is going to happen at some point using those talents in a way that would be beneficial to an employer. And lo and behold, she was actually went through and got a coaching degree herself, and is now a coach and very
Mm,
successful and loving it.
wow,
And it
very
is all
nice.
through the practice of gratitude, just the the wisdom of like, okay, I think I need to get a coaching certificate and I need to do this, and did.
Okay. And do you feel like she was really, really eager or quick to really latch on to gratitude as, okay, this is the key to helping me, transition careers in this case?
Yes, I think so. I think when it's presented in the fact of lots of science is behind this and it's helped a lot of other people, there's a lot of books I point at my clients to as well that they read. And once they read one or two of those, they get all fired up that, okay, this is possible. I've seen all the evidence. I want to do it. Help me do it.
Yes. So now, speaking of resources, you have published a book called
Yes.
Flourish. So now tell us a little bit about that and why did you decide to publish this book?
Okay, so my book Flourish came after I took my gratitude tree to market in 2018. It was early 2019, and I'd always thought in the back of my head, one day I'd like to write a book. It would be a bucket list thing. And so I guess I started incorporating gratitude towards it and saying, I'd love to write a book, but the opportunity will present itself one day. And I didn't think it would be that soon. But in early April of 2019, I was connected with a publisher who I pitched my idea to with my story on my healing with my thoughts and gratitude. And they thought it was a great story for a book, and they wanted me to pull all the science and other people's stories in as well, which I did. So my book Flourish contains my story as well as many other people's stories about the transformational power of gratitude in specific areas of one's life. There's things like connection to others, self worth, handling adversity, mental, physical health, and then the things like happiness and then abundance as well, and the science that goes beyond what you have now, but and so much more coming in when you practice gratitude. And I can completely attest to that because once I started practicing gratitude, my life went on this like literally vertical trajectory of just like thing after thing coming in that I just was in awe.
That is amazing. Wow. I love that you're not only sharing your own story, but you're really pulling in, hey, it's not just me, others are practicing gratitude and being successful with that as well.
Yes, it was once I started reaching out to people and then those people put me in touch with other people. I was floored with how many people this had touched and how many lives it had touched. And I wanted to share everybody's story. They couldn't all fit in my book, but I share several of them.
Oh, yes. Now what is the gratitude tree? Is that something you can tell us about, or do we just need to read the book and find out for ourselves?
No, I can absolutely describe it. So most people are familiar with the vinyl wall decals you put in on the wall. You use them as decoratives or in kids' rooms, or little verses or things that you like. So I created a tree out of the same material, and it's a branch system that can be as large as 5 feet by 5 feet, or it can be customized to a smaller space or a doorway if need be. And the leaves are different colored leaves that you write things you're grateful for on them. And so there's a couple different greens. You can start it in the spring and use the green leaves, or you can start it around fall time and use the fall colored leaves as well. And each day you add to the tree something that you're grateful for. It's a great thing to do with other people because it's a bonding experience to practice gratitude with others. And
Mhm.
maybe you can collaborate on things as a family that everyone's grateful for. And you add that to the tree. And what it does is it becomes a visual reminder of all that you do have in your life. And every time you walk by the tree and you see these things that you do have, it's a reminder to switch back into the state of gratitude. And that muscle builds very quickly so that when adversity hits, and it always does, and it will at some point, you can quickly switch back into the lens of gratitude and focus on what you do have, and that you will get through the tumultuous times.
I love that. And especially earlier, you talked about really remembering the past, those good experiences, in order to move forward. So this is kind of a more of a visual as well as kind of a mental exercise and a group exercise to really bring that home.
Correct. Yes.
So that is amazing. So, and we will talk about how people can access that later in our resources. But speaking of resources, in addition to your book, what other are there any other resources that are particularly helpful if people are trying to develop gratitude, or if they're just trying to start basically?
Start a practice. Yeah, I love to suggest my book,
Of
but there's
course.
other books too that I find extremely helpful in understanding the backdrop of the science. Lipton's book is a great place to start with that. Joe Dispenza has amazing story. He was actually in participating in a triathlon and was hit from a car from the rear and was
Oh wow.
catapulted into the air and broke his back in six places. And
Oh.
through mental thoughts and practices, he was able to heal his back to the point where every doctor he went to said that he may or may not get out of a wheelchair. It was not looking good. To the point where he has no pain today, and is you would never know he broke his back in even one place, let alone six. And that was through his mental practice that incorporated a high emotion like gratitude. So love, joy, gratitude are all the very high frequency emotions, and
Mm.
Dr. Joe Dispenza actually states that gratitude is the highest frequency of those emotions. You don't have to look far to find book after book of these incredible stories of people that just through positive thinking were able to heal themselves. And I love reading stories. It's so inspirational to me to read these stories of like people that were, stage 4 cancer or just um, incredibly sick in some which way, and just came out against all odds and are completely fine today.
Wow, I love that. Now, at the same time, there can be some people who may have challenges with developing gratitude. So, have you worked with people who are kind of struggling in that area? What are some of the challenges that people go through? And maybe they're not sold on it, or maybe they're just having a rough time with it.
Well, it's interesting you say that because the people that are the most logical thinkers have the toughest time with this. It's because you have to let
Mm.
go of everything mentally. And these type of people always have scripts and always have things running in their head. They're always thinking. They have hard time going to bed because they've just got things going around in their head. And it's really hard for them to get into the state of gratitude. But for those people and for anybody that's having a difficult time, you can just bring it back to your breath. They say that taking 7 deep breaths in and out, just really slow, deep breaths, can actually bring you from a fight or flight state to a calm state. And that's just a physiological thing that happens when you just do deep breathing. But once you're in that calm state, you can actually start to let everything go. And it's in that blank slate of a mindset that you can start to bring in the emotion of gratitude. And that's when things really start to change.
Okay. So basically, it comes down to okay, let's make time for the 7 deep breaths, or the just kind of getting to that calm state so you can refocus.
Yes, and I actually personally start my meditation every day with the deep breaths. Sometimes I do 7, sometimes I do 15. It depends on the day that I know is ahead of me. Sometimes I have to really calm myself because I know I've got a busy day ahead, and I need to really start in that calm type of position.
Okay. So just kind of it's kind of more of a wanting to refocus, a wanting, kind of getting all the many other thoughts that you've got going on in your head about what you're going to do that day, just kind of rebalancing, so to speak.
Correct, exactly. Kind of just setting the caliber to 0 and going
Mm.
from there.
I love that. That's really good because it not only kind of flushes out any thoughts that may, not need to take up space, but it really channels you toward gratitude and toward really, I guess, thinking and balancing what's important.
Yeah, and you would be surprised how many people have told me that they wake up in a fight or flight state. They just wake up and their mind immediately goes to what's in front of them that day, and I have to do X, Y, Z all before 9 a.m. And then I've got 3 meetings, and I've got to somehow get dinner and get the kids. And it's just we wake up into a state of stress, and we go to bed in a state of stress, and we wonder why things aren't going well, or we have illnesses, or things that come into our lives that aren't what we would think of as ideal. We
Mm,
can't live in a state of stress. We need to get back to a relaxed state, and we need to have tools to be able to do that.
interesting. So that's primarily, I guess, why you focus on gratitude in the morning and gratitude in the evening to kind of get the noise out, so to speak.
Yeah, get the noise out, but also just to concentrate and fill myself up with all that I do have. When you practice it long enough, you you think like, oh, I couldn't possibly list 100 things that I'm grateful for. Well, yeah, when you start, you may not be able to, but it's amazing as you practice this. You can't almost can't stop listing the things. It just exponentially grows, and you realize more and more that you do have. And I'm realizing the more and more you do have, I believe you're getting more and more too coming into your life because you're practicing at this higher frequency. At least that's what the science is telling us.
Okay. So yes, that's really, the expression practice makes perfect. So you're just kind of keeping at it. You may not necessarily uh, think you're any good at it at the beginning, but you'll get there, and as you've attested that you can kind of see the success in your own life
Yeah.
and those around you.
Yes. And from I love the statement, what we practice, we reap. So when we practice negative things and we, practice depression and anxiety, we reap more depression and anxiety from that. But when we practice things like gratitude, we reap more from the gratitude. We express that to other people express it to us. We feel more gratitude. So it just fills us up more in a good, positive way.
Good point. Excellent. Just kind of success breeds more success, or you
Yes,
know gratitude breeds more gratitude.
exactly.
Oh, so what are some steps that people can take if they say, okay, I've had enough of, whatever's going on in my life. I want to really, really focus. You mentioned kind of breathing, but what are some steps people can take to really, really hone in, really take advantage of gratitude for their life?
Yeah, well, I kind of lay out the practice really well in my book, but I can touch on a little bit of it. One thing, first and foremost, that I state at the very beginning of my book, before even the introduction, I think it's either before or right after the introduction, is that we can't practice gratitude. We can't come into a state without being fully forgiving both ourselves and other people. We can't hold on to any resentment or any pent up feelings of um, angst against anyone. We have to fully forgive. And that the hardest thing is to forgive ourselves. Guilt is one of the things that really drags us down. And so there's a really great practice called Ho'oponopono, and it's an ancient Hawaiian practice. It's if you Google it, there's all kinds of YouTube videos to walk you through. It's a really effective way to let go and to just forgive in your head, in your heart, and let go. And I suggest practicing that if you feel like you're holding on to any guilt or resentment or unforgiveness in your heart, to practice that first and then come back to gratitude. The other thing, too, that I think we need to practice is letting negative emotions go and realizing that we're feeling these negative things. And I have a practice where I think of them as leaves that I drop in the stream. And
Mhm.
I take the thought as a leaf and I drop it and I watch it float away. So I'm in essence watching it disappear from my life. And each negative thing that comes into my mind for the day, I think through, okay, what didn't go so well? What transpired that came from a negative thought? And I let go of those negative things. And then I have room for the gratitude. So you've got to make room by
Mhm.
taking the negative out to make room to fill back up with the positive. And if you keep doing that on a regular basis, you'll notice that there's less and less of the leaves that you need to drop in the stream, so to speak, and you can quickly fill back up with the gratitude. It becomes a
Mm.
practice that's self fulfilling.
Sure. Now, I would imagine it's, a kind of a different timeline for everyone. If they're struggling, if they're trying to get rid of the negative, if they're trying to refocus and get rid of the hard feelings to begin with, in order to start the gratitude cycle.
It can be difficult and challenging at first, absolutely, as any new thing is. I love to use the analogy of when you first go to the gym and decide you're going to start a workout routine. It's really hard, and it's almost, you don't want other people to see you almost like, fumbling around with weights and machines because you don't know what you're doing. You don't feel like it's working. 2 weeks later, you don't feel like anything's changed. But lo and behold, if you keep that practice up, you will notice things slowly start to change in a good way. And gratitude's the same. You got to start practicing it. You're not going to notice anything immediately. Well, sometimes some people may, but as it builds up more and more, you're going to notice quicker. You can shift back into that mindset of, hey, I've got all this. I don't need to focus on what I don't have. Got to focus on what I do have.
Interesting. I love that. So that is that. Yes, I love the really grasping on the positive and grasping on that gratitude. So that's super super important with any goal that you've got. So with regard to here at Food Experience Unplugged, we're focused on healthy eating, on aspects of the food experience. Where does gratitude fit in building healthy eating habits, or in really building your relationship with food, or other areas?
That's a really interesting point that you bring up, because back when I was sick and I wasn't feeling well, I didn't focus on things like nutrition and exercise as much as I wish I would have, because I know those things would have helped my serotonin levels and helped me kind of get into a better mental place. But when I started practicing gratitude, I started to want to take better care of myself. I wanted to implement running into my daily routine, and then that became a habit that I continue today. And then, different healthy things. I'm just one of those people. I continuously love to learn, and I always want to learn and understand more and more. And I would implement things that I'd find, like for one thing that I found is broccoli sprouts. And I realized I love broccoli sprouts sprinkled in my salad. I eat this giant dinner plate of salad almost every night as a snack. And that's my like 9 o'clock, before bedtime snack. People laugh at me, but I actually look at it as a treat now. And I sprinkle a little blue cheese and then walnuts and then the broccoli sprouts on top. It was just a drizzle of olive oil. And that's my treat before bed. And I incorporate that in my life along with intermittent fasting. I usually don't eat the next day until almost lunchtime. And my energy level, when I started incorporating this, really shot through the roof. And I think that gratitude makes you want to be better and want to be better to serve others. I think that when you're so full that it's overflowing, you naturally want to extend that out to other people and help other people. And that's the point where I'm at now.
Oh, excellent. So, yes, I love that. And just really fueling your own body. And then it not only helps you, but it allows you to give with your family members, with your friends, at your workplace. Just so many areas that it can transfer to. So.
Yes, absolutely.
So excellent. Now, is this, I just have to ask, is this the gratitude tree that you're standing next to?
No, it's not. It's a little prop tree that I put for my YouTube and my Zoom videos. So no, it's not the gratitude tree. I can send you
Okay.
a picture of it if you'd like.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Now, how can people, if people want to buy your book, get this gratitude tree, and of course learn more about you and your work, how can people get in contact with you?
Well, my gratitude tree website is gratitudemission.org, where they can order the product. And then my personal website for coaching and speaking, etc., is Jennifer Garman, and that's spelled GARMAN.XYZ. And that's my personal webpage where people can contact me.
Excellent. And one other question though: have you ever had anybody need to order more leaves because they've run out of
Yes.
leaves?
Honestly, that's the biggest question I get. And that's something that I didn't think through in my initial order of my product. I did a mass order initially for my product because in bulk and coming from overseas, it made much more sense. And that's one thing I didn't think of. So I had a couple, about 10% of my inventory got damaged on the freight ship. And so I would take that product and I'd make the tree part, the branches part was damaged, and I couldn't resell it as a whole product. So I would take the leaves, which were encapsulated inside and protected, and I would get those as extra leaves. But that's the biggest question I get, and I wish I would have thought that through. But I am going to have a solution for that soon.
Excellent. So yes, you don't want to be caught without a gratitude leaf.
Very true.
Oh, well, what are as we kind of wrap up here, what is some advice that you would give to people if they're, struggling with gratitude, if they're really trying to implement it? Are there aspects that, perhaps they haven't thought of yet that will really help to really focus and channel for whatever reason they're pursuing it, whether they're trying to establish healthy habits, maybe they're doing a career change like your story you related. What are some things that really they can grasp on?
Um, I I think I alluded to it before, but just the quickest, easiest thing you can do, and you can do this even once a day, either when you wake up or when you go to bed. Just a couple things that you're grateful for, and let that be the last thought before drifting off to bed, or the first thing into your mind when you wake up. And I heard someone, I think it was one of my clients, that told me that a practice that they'd heard of was when you get out of bed, put one foot down and say thank, and one foot down and say you. So every morning you get up and it's thank you. And that's just a simple thing. It takes literally a second of your time, but it's a starting place, and let it
Mm,
grow from there.
okay. So just start small and work up.
Exactly.
So
Start at minuscule, even.
let's see, two things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for the ability to change and have gratitude and be able to really, really focus on developing, a new me, so to speak. Let's see. One other thing that I'm grateful for is for the opportunity that we've had for our conversation. So to really hone in on gratitude and really, really implement it in our lives.
Well, I'm grateful for you, Michelle, and having me on your podcast. I'm so thankful for that today. So
Oh,
thank you.
okay, great. Well, now that was one thing. What's the second thing that you're grateful for?
I'm grateful that today turned into a day of abundance for me. I woke up thinking that I had a large to-do list, and things just started coming in as early as 7:45 this morning into my life. People that I contacted months ago, two of them got back to me today, and I was just I had written them off because I'd tried several times to contact them. And I'm
Mhm.
also grateful for the fact that I'm starting my own podcast next week,
Oh,
and things are
excellent.
starting to fall in line for that too. So yes, the gratitude can go on and on.
Wonderful, absolutely. So, well, if you will be sure to include those in that all of that information in the show notes so that people can contact you, they can start watching your podcast as well. And oh, we are so grateful, Jennifer, to really talk with you about gratitude. And I really hope people can really grasp on that it just takes that little bit of energy to really get the momentum going.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I hope that we've reached some people to want to incorporate gratitude into their lives and make a change for the better.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to be notified as new episodes become available. You can also visit our website at foodexperienceunplugged.com to check out some free resources on helping you develop healthy eating habits for life success.